Shemai Friendy, and welcome back to my channel. My name's CaitlinAnwyn for anyone who's new here, and let's get back into building in Planet Zoo. And today we are starting the massive habitat for the Southern White Rhinos, and it's going to be a safari ride experience, and I'm going to be adding in lots of other animals as well. But this is going to take some time. I definitely could not fill out all 35,000 meters squared of habitat in just one episode. So this is going to be a project, should we say. And I'm going to start off with trying to do a little bit of a natural barrier. This is right next to the start of the habitat and the first safari 4x4 adventure transport ride station, and I wanted to make this little bit a bit more interesting to look at, because this is the first thing you see when you come in, and I would have preferred to have all natural barriers, which I've played around with a little bit of the sandbox settings, and I might just have natural barriers for everything, but I'm not sure whether all of the sandbox settings are new, but there's like a new button you can press underneath the settings button in the top right corner. We have sandbox settings now. I'm sure that button wasn't there before, there only used to be one. I never really pay that much attention, that's probably my fault, but I have switched off the escape settings, and I've also stopped the animals from destroying barriers as well, because the white rhinos actually broke my wooden barriers, but I like the look of them, so I was like, no, don't break those. I don't care if they're not like the right setting for you, I like what they look like. I think that's the fun of having sandbox, is being able to do these sorts of things where you can just ignore most of the rules for Planet Zoo and do whatever you want. Had a few different reference photos for the watering holes, and I really like the look of this one where it was a little bit of a like an oasis in this deserty grassland area, which is kind of the look of this map. And I did mention in the last video I have actually downloaded this map off the Steam Workshop. It is by swoop_there, and the links to the pre-terraformed map will be in the description. If you want a full overlook of that, it'll be at the first part of Wednesday's video, which I will put up in the iCards. The name of this map is After the Rains in Africa, so a watering hole makes sort of sense with that as well. That it's like a natural pool that's being created from rain. So I wanted to make this part of the habitat a little greener, which the short grass is a lot greener than the long grass. And most of the animals do not like the long grass anyway, so that's cool. But I wanted this to be natural looking, like it had just filled from a rain. And it's not like just a perfect shape. It's like it's been dug out and worn out and it's filled with rain. So I didn't want it to be perfectly clear and perfectly clean, and the ride track had a lovely curve in it. I was trying to make that look a little bit more natural, like you wouldn't just drive in a straight line in a safari. It would be like curvy and have a look around the animals themselves, trying to find different species of animals on a safari. So I had this watering hole in this lovely curve here, so it could attract a few more animals closer towards the tracks. And on the reference photos there was kind of like rocky, almost piers, but they're not piers, they were just like bits that hadn't broken away because there was a lot of rock there, so they kind of stuck out a little bit out onto the water. So I used these rocks to make like little outcroppings of the watering hole, because I know most of the Africa animals won't be technically swimming. Like the white rhino doesn't swim, but it will come to the edge of this watering hole and have a drink. And if you want to see that, I will be putting that right at the end of the video. You won't believe how happy I was when I seen it come and drink. I was like, yes, it's working. This is what I wanted. And now we'll attract animals closer to the ride, which this habitat's all about the ride. There's no viewing points anywhere else other than the ride itself, because it's so big. There's really no point in having a pathway for the guests on the edge of the barrier, because animals just won't be right at the edge of the barrier all the time. So I took a little break from my watering hole and I tried to make a natural barrier for this little hill here, because as soon as I got the white rhino in, there was one that just straight away started trying to escape. Even though their habitat was huge, they wanted to escape straight away, and I was just like, seriously, you have 35,000 meters squared of space here, and the first thing you do is try to escape. Like, why? Why is this coded like this? Stay in your habitat. But now I've like stopped my rhinos from escaping. I wanted to get back in and start decorating the watering hole, because I started having a plan then to think that I needed to do this habitat in chunks, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to detail the amount that I wanted to detail in this. I wanted to add in lots of different plant life and have lots of details in this without having to cut out a lot of the footage, because if I do end up doing massive habitats like this, I can't fit it in all into one video, so I end up having to like cut a lot out of it. I'll come back to this habitat. Maybe I won't do it straight away like in the next video. Maybe I'll try and do a different habitat for the next video, but I'll come back to this and add extra details and add more and more animals as I go along, because I have plenty of room and plenty of space for extra animals as well, because it takes a little time. Ideally, I would like all of my animals to be at 100% happiness. I don't think I'm going to get that with like terrain, because at the moment I'm fuss-sassing around with the terrain, because I've now added in the Thompson's gazelle and the African buffalo in with the white rhino, her video, so we can still add in new animals as I'm building new things. But I really like these new grasses that come with the Africa pack. I'm sure these are new. Where there's water, there's more plant life. So I wanted to add in more greenery around this area too. And I really like the new grass. I like that it's kind of got like little white tips to it. It's really nice. I like this new texture. I love plants. I love all the new plants. I overused all of the Asian style plants in the last zoo, so it's nice to just use different color tones and different plants and try and make something a little bit more realistic, because I like really out there wacky builds sometimes, which I still will be doing in this zoo, but this habitat itself, this one's going to be a little bit more realistic. I want these guests to feel like they're on a real safari. I thought we would have a ride around on the safari once the habitat itself is finished, because there's not really much to see on the safari track at the moment, or there wasn't when I was building the stations. There was nothing to see really. It was just a big blank habitat. And this is what I meant by adding extra little details in. I would have never had time to add in underwater plants and stuff and show underwater plants if I wanted to complete this huge habitat in one go, but I do want to add in extra details like this. I know most of the African animals won't be swimming, but we can still see bits and pieces under the water when we're looking, and the guests can. I like adding plants in the divots of the ground. I've like roughened the bottom of this watering hole. I didn't want it to be like perfect, and plants have sort of collected in the deeper parts and like the little divots. That's what makes sense to me. Maybe some people would rather put them on the like higher parts so you can see it better, but I always gravitate towards putting them in like the dents and divots of the ground. That's kind of how I like the plant life to look. The rocks really looked man-made and looked like they would been placed there because there was just no other rocks around. It was just a line of jaggedy rocks. So I kind of took inspiration from how I did the watering hole, where I like laid them flat, adding those colours in and adding that little bit of texture in, kind of blends in those rocks a little bit more. Once I'd added in those rocks around the terrain itself, it stopped the line of rocks looking so obviously placed there. But I still wanted it to be inescapable, right? English is hard. It's my only language. I know a little bit of Welsh, hence the Shemai at the start of the video, but English is my only language and I still struggle. So fair play to people who actually learn English as a second language, because even I can't remember all of the different like rules in place for English. And you think I'd be better at it from how much I read. Like, I know I have all of these behind me, but I read a lot on Kindle now because, as you can tell, I have no more room to place any more books on that shelf, so I read more on my phone now than in physical copies. I'm even running out of books to read on my Kindle. I've read so many. Really go back into reading in my like free time, but I would love some suggestions if you are into reading as well. I know this is like a gaming video, but you know me, I never stick to just what I'm supposed to be talking about. So yeah, if you are like an avid reader as well, suggest me some series that you think I might like. I usually read like young adult fiction. I like supernatural stuff, vampires, werewolves, fairies, magic. I love all of that. A few of my favourite authors is Cassandra Clare, which are just behind my head there. I've read all of Cassandra Clare's books. Most of them are on the Kindle, but some of the first series that she did for the Shadowhunters series, I've got physical copies for. I also love Rachel Kane, who's up there. Morganville Vampire series, that's amazing. Ooh, Rochelle Mead, which is just over my shoulder. Vampire Academy. You can probably tell the sort of gist of what I like now. Vampires, magic, vampires. I've got some werewolves somewhere along there. But I enjoy young adult. It still has some sort of action and some tension. There's always something going wrong, maybe somewhere, but there's not too much like explicitness. As I said last week, I am ace, so I don't really like reading adult books because sometimes it can get a little bit too adult, if you would know what I'm talking about. I rather like magic and some not so realism, escapism. But that's the whole thing, isn't it? Like, reading's an escape and playing games is an escape, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. Just go into somewhere where you're happy. What makes you happy? Do you love creating things? Do you love getting out and about into nature, kind of like going on a safari like this? Going for like walks or hikes up hills? I don't know. I do like going for walks, but as you can probably tell, I'm not really like an outdoor person. And I couldn't really resist placing some more of that new grass around the hill area. I've got a thing for like placing little bits of green in like cracks of rocks and placing them in like the gaps between rocks to add a little bit more dimension and texture into that. There's a lot of beige, and that's why I've added a bit of blue in with the buildings, and I like adding in some greenery in amongst everything too, because otherwise it can get kind of very samey. Building this style of habitat is making me a little bit more confident and giving me a little bit more practice and making some realistic parts of habitats too. But don't worry, I will be doing some wacky builds as well. I can't just do all of these natural looking things. That is not my style. But I would like to know what you would like to see me build as well. What animal should we do next? Doesn't have to be an animal from the Africa pack. We have lots of animals from Africa in Planet Zoo as well, so we can do any sort of animal to go with this zoo or go in this zoo from Africa. So let me know what you would like to see, what animals you would like me to build habitats for, and what sorts of things you would like me to build for them. But I'm gonna leave it off there. You can see the white rhino using the watering hole. I was so happy to see the white rhino use my little watering hole pond, and exactly how I thought they would use it. Go up to that like lower part, walk up and have a drink. It's just perfect. I love it. So I'm going to leave it off there now. Don't forget to leave your suggestions in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, smash that like button, and if you haven't already and you would like to, it would mean a lot to me if you could subscribe and hit the bell to be notified whenever I upload a new video. I upload on Wednesdays and Saturdays around 7 PM, and thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye!